Live from the Scheidegger Center for the Arts on the campus of Lindenwood University, it's the St. Charles County Executive Debate 2026. Now, your host for this evening, Steve Ehlmann.
Welcome to NewsTalkSTL and God's Country. Welcome to the Scheidegger Center on the Lindenwood University campus for our St. Charles County Executive Debate. Before we get underway, let me thank our hosts for this evening, the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise here at Lindenwood, and our partners for this event, the St. Charles County Republican Central Committee, Rivers NewsMagazine, the Lewis and Clark Pachyderm Club, and of course, NewsTalkSTL. So we're going to get to the introductions of our three amazing panelists who will be asking the questions tonight, questions that they have prepared and questions that the audience supplied earlier in the evening, as many of you have filled out the cards there. First off the bat, Mike Ferguson. Mike has worked nearly 30 years in media before moving into talk radio. He was a journalist with experience in radio, television, and newspapers. Mike served in elected office on the Board of Aldermen and on a utility board of directors prior to that. Mike has been the first local voice of the day for us since NewsTalkSTL launched 5 years ago as host of the Mike Ferguson Show weekday mornings at 5:30 until 9 o'clock. Also his partner, Susie Moore. Susie is the deputy managing editor for Red State and the co-host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on NewsTalkSTL. She practiced law for 28 years before making media her full-time career. She has also been a St. Charles County resident for more than a dozen years now, so welcome, Susie. Dan Fox is the managing editor of the Rivers NewsMagazine, a trusted source for local news, schools, and sports coverage in St. Charles County for more than 20 years. Dan began his journalism career more than a decade ago as a freelance reporter with Mid-Rivers, covering the O'Fallon City Council and other local government issues. Since then, he has built a reputation for community-focused reporting and an understanding of the issues shaping St. Charles County. So now, on to our candidates. Steve Ehlmann, the current county executive, practiced law before running for office for the first time at age 39. Steve spent 4 years in the Missouri House, where his biggest accomplishment was drafting the language creating the Missouri Ethics Commission. He then spent 12 years in the Senate, with the last 4 as the Republican floor leader. Accomplishments in the House include charter schools, the Page Avenue Bridge, and receiving the Defender of Life Award from Missouri Right to Life. Steve also spent 3 years as a circuit judge and 3 years as a director of administration before becoming the St. Charles County Executive. As county executive, Steve got funding for Phase 3 of Highway 364 and keeping the county businesses open during that COVID time while experiencing the lowest mortality rate of any jurisdiction in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, current St. Charles County Executive, Steve Ehlmann. Bill Eigel is an 8-year United States Air Force veteran, small business owner, and former Missouri State Senator. During his military service, Bill held the rank of captain and is a decorated veteran who served overseas in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, earning commendations for his service. After leaving the Air Force in 2007, Bill purchased St. Louis Skylights, a residential and commercial remodeling company based in St. Charles County. The business later expanded nationally and was renamed National Skylight Solutions. In 2017, he was elected to represent Missouri's 23rd Senate District and served 2 terms in the Missouri Senate. During his legislative career, he sponsored and passed House Bill 2540, a major tax reduction measure, and Senate Bill 26, the Police Officer Bill of Rights. Bill resides in Weldon Spring with his wife Amanda, their 2 Great Danes, Pika and Belle, and their 150-pound foster dog, Frankie. Their children, Kevin and Lisa, are serving in the United States Navy and Air Force, respectively, and have moved out to make room for all of the dogs. Please welcome Bill Eigel. Jason Law is a decorated law enforcement lieutenant colonel, former mayor of Lake St. Louis, devoted husband and proud father. As mayor, he cut property taxes, strengthened public safety, and took bold action to protect neighborhoods from reckless overdevelopment. A conservative outsider endorsed by first responders throughout our county, Jason Law is running to bring safer streets, lower taxes, and strong conservative leadership to St. Charles County. Please join me in welcoming Jason Law.
He needs to go. He needs to go.
All right. We've got our first dust up.
Yeah.
All right. Hey. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, we chose the top 3 candidates at polling. Everybody does it that way. That's how we did it, and that's how it's going to be. All right? All right, so we're going to go over the rules for tonight's debate. These have already been discussed with the candidates in the back room. Oh, that's a bad term, isn't it? In the green room, should say that. These rules are as follows. Each candidate will get 2 minutes for the opening statements. The order they will be given those statements was drawn backstage as well, right before the debate. Each panelist will get 2 questions back to back so we can accommodate follow-ups if necessary. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their initial response to questions. If any candidate is mentioned during that response by name, the mentioned candidate will get 30 seconds to respond. Then the original candidate will get 30 seconds to respond to that. Each candidate will get up to 2 minutes for closing statements. The order will be opposite of the opening statement order. Each candidate has agreed to abide by these prearranged time limits on answers. At any time during the debate, the moderator, who would be me, can modify the rules if I deem that more time is needed to clarify a point. Because the debate is being broadcast live on radio, profanity will not be tolerated at any time. We have to adhere to all FCC broadcast regulations because we fought pretty hard for this license. Candidates may not bring notes to the podium, but can take notes while the debate is in progress. Candidates attended a pre-debate meeting backstage, as I mentioned, to go over the rules, draw for opening statement order, and have any questions or concerns addressed. Immediately after the debate, each candidate will be given a 15-minute individual press conference in the Black Box Theater directly across from the main venue. The order of appearance will be the same as the start of the debate. We have our intrepid timekeeper. His name is Travis Hines. He is a committeeman with the city of O'Fallon. So our opening statement, and we did indeed draw these backstage as well. So the first out of the blocks will be Bill Eigel.
Well, thank you, Jamie. I'm Bill Eigel, and it's a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm proud to be running here in St. Charles County to be the next county executive. Right on stage tonight, I'm the only military veteran. I'm the only small business owner. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is on stage tonight, I am the least tenured public official of anybody on stage tonight. I guess that kind of makes me the new guy, which is fine with me because I think St. Charles County is at a crossroads right now. St. Charles County, for many years, led the state in terms of growth. We were #1 for many, many years, but we've seen some stagnation creep in. And when I mean stagnation, we've dropped from first in growth to 17th out of 116 counties. The reason that's happening is because our property taxes and personal property taxes have gotten out of control. While our leadership has been not paying attention, our property taxes have increased almost 350% over the past 18 years, and that's just to the county level. In addition, we've seen apartment complexes go up on virtually every corner of the county. We've seen more than 10,000 units go up of apartment complexes, changing the dynamic and the feel of the St. Charles County we know. And at the same time, big corporations are trying to bring in big corporate data centers and fleece the taxpayer into paying for them. Well, I think we need a different route. I've got a plan that's going to do three main things. One, we're going to make St. Charles County the first county in Missouri to no longer levy personal property tax, not just for the county, but for all the taxing jurisdictions so that you can actually own your car. Number two, we're going to put county standards and guidelines in place to encourage the municipalities to stop building all these apartment complexes and have real smart growth as we move forward in how we manage the future for St. Charles County. And finally, we're going to say no to all these corporate raiders that are trying to put these data centers in our communities, and we're going to make sure St. Charles County is the way it is now for many years to come. Thanks for having me.
And now, Jason Law.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Lindenwood. Thank you, NewsTalkSTL. I really appreciate being here tonight. Tonight's it's about an election in St. Charles County that we don't need any more career politicians. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Jason Law. I'm a family man. I'm a husband, father of 3 that belong to ICD Catholic Church. I'm a career policeman. I've been on law enforcement for 28 years, and I'm very proud of that service to my community. I started as a beat cop in North St. Louis County and rose through the ranks as detective all the way up to Lieutenant Colonel, where I'm now in charge of the Division of Special Operations. My job is a big responsibility. I provide safety to nearly 1 million people on a daily basis. My decisions make a difference in safety for our region. You know, I didn't want to stop with my service. I was really passionate about it, and I wanted to start my own community in the city of Lake St. Louis. I ran for mayor on 3 ideas: lower taxes, lower bureaucracy, and safer streets. I made that promise, and I brought it to my community. In the 4 years that I was there, we cut taxes by 46% by paying off debt and becoming a debt-free city. We invested millions into the police department, expanding the police department by 33%, cutting crime by 45%, becoming the 10th safest city in the state of Missouri. And finally, we lowered bureaucracy. We got rid of our permitting system. That drove almost $500 million in private investment, bringing jobs to Lake St. Louis. I'm not a career politician. I'm not a polished politician. I'm a policeman, and that's why I need to be your next St. Charles County executive.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Ehlmann.
Thank you, Jamie. I want to thank all that made this possible tonight, and just get into a discussion here about what I would like to do if you will allow us to continue to represent you in county government. And I say we. When I say we, I'm talking about my staff. I'm talking about all the people that work in the county, and we've got a great team. I didn't have to become the Republican floor leader in the Senate to find out quite early that you couldn't get much done in Jefferson City without working with other people. Maybe the one thing you could do is filibuster and kill a bill. But if you wanted to pass a bill, you had to work with people, and I want to continue to work with people as we have in the past. I want to continue to work with the council to keep our tax rate, property tax rate for St. Charles County residents at 0. It's been there the last 11 years. We want to go ahead and totally eliminate the personal property tax, and if the sales tax continues to grow as it has in the first quarter, I think we're going to be able to do that. Transportation, we've got I-70, I-64, we're going to get that finished. We're going to work on Route N. With law enforcement, we are going to work with other people in the region. We're going to work with our cities. We are going to go ahead and build additional courtrooms in our courthouse. Because of that, we're going to need to build office buildings, build offices next door in the old city hall. It's going to save a lot of money not having to build a new building from scratch. We have expanded our jail. People say, wait a minute, crime's down. Crime is down in St. Charles County for 5 years in a row, but we have a lot of people coming here, and we're doing a better job of catching them because our police officers work together, and we want to continue to do that.
All right. Our first question comes from Mike Ferguson, and just in case you're keeping track, the order of answering will go up, down, and occasionally the guy in the middle is going to be able to answer one first too, so don't worry about that. All right, Mike Ferguson.
Thank you all for being here, gentlemen. I want to start with the question of growth, which has been referenced a couple times, so this question is for all of you. When you look at the types of growth that the county has, what should be the priority as far as attracting businesses or additional housing development, because there's so many people who want to come here to St. Charles County? And then what would the right role of the county government be it tax or be it incentive, being it recruiting, and what, I guess more importantly, should the county avoid when it comes to that growth?
I think that's a great question. And if you look at the history of the St. Louis region, crime has plagued our region for over 60 years, which we've lost more Fortune 500 companies in our region than any other place in the United States of America. We need to make sure we get together with the entire region, come up with a crime plan, and implement that plan. Also for St. Charles County in terms of growth, as the mayor of Lake St. Louis, I was the first person in 2021 to put in a moratorium for apartments in Lake St. Louis. We lowered density, and we were able to not have any more proposals for apartments after that point in 2021. And to this date, there hasn't been another apartment built. We need to work as a region to stop crime, and we need the overdevelopment of apartments to stop right now.
Those for all three of you.
You can go ahead.
Oh, I didn't know if we're going to reset the timer.
It's okay. You can.
Okay. Here's what we can do. If we want to see St. Charles grow in the future, we've got to get rid of personal property tax so you can actually own your car. And I don't mean just the small sliver of personal property tax that still might be going to the county. I mean all of it. That number that you're passing, that you're paying for on December 1st, my plan is to go into the county budget, which is separate from all those personal property tax funds, get us away from the money pits that the county unfortunately has been getting into. And we're going to transfer those savings in a real way to your bottom line and become the first county in the state to not have any personal property tax. And yes, I think that managing the growth plan for these apartments is critical. The reality is we've had more than 10,000 units come into St. Charles County over the past 18 years. It's changing the dynamics. We got to have a leadership team that's going to engage with the municipalities and do something to push back on all these apartment complexes. We're going to develop some guidelines, and we're going to leverage the cities to follow those guidelines by holding against them some of the funds that they get from the county right now. You want to get them to get in line? You threaten the money.
All right, Steve.
There are a lot of apartments that have been built in the last 19 years. The county government has approved 180 units in 19 years. That's 1.5% of the total. Apartments, yeah, we got too many. During the first part of this decade, we had 40% of the residences were built were apartments. Now we're back down to 16, but I agree with you 100%, and the county, I think, will continue to not approve them. And as for the property tax, again, I think the senator knows that under the Constitution, you can't take public money and use it for a private purpose. And everybody has an obligation to pay the property tax. You can control, and I can control what they pay to the county, but we can't control what they have to pay to others. And for somehow take money out of the county budget and use that to pay their debt is not constitutional.
So, since it's implicit because we want to encourage the debate. It's implicit when you mention someone's name and it's Senator Bill Eigel, then we're going to give you a chance, 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, and Steve, I'm glad that you and I both agree that apartments are a problem and taxation is a problem. I just wish for the past 20 years you'd have done something about it. Here's the reality. You absolutely can go into the $600 million county budget, get rid of all the money pits that you've gotten us into, the family arena, the National Equestrian Center, and send those over to the collector with an appropriation from the county council to pay off people's tax bills on their behalf. That happens every day when mortgage companies send a payment to the collector on behalf of citizens. We can do that, but I'm the only one up here that's even trying to think of ideas of how to bring this burden down.
Well, I don't understand why you think that the county executive or the county council can control what other jurisdictions do with their taxes.
I'm not controlling them.
I would ask you to read Article 3, Section 38A of the Missouri Constitution. You cannot use public funds for a private purpose. And although those funds, those personal property taxes may go to a public entity, it's a private obligation that each of us have. We don't like it, and yeah, I wish people would lower it, but...
Time's up. Thank you so much. Susie Moore.
Thank you. One of the reasons people end up renting is because housing has become so expensive. What can or should the county and the county executive do to help deal with affordable or keep housing affordable?
And that would be to Steve and then down the line.
Sorry, would you repeat the last part of that?
Yeah. What can, should the county executive and the county do to help keep housing affordable?
Keep housing
affordable.
Affordable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. And that's why, unfortunately, we probably have way more apartments than we should because there's not a lot of affordable housing. Now, I was able to purchase my first home when I was 29 years old, and I had to wait that long because the interest rate was 18%. Okay, today we need more homes for our kids and grandkids. We need those starter homes where people can buy something they afford and then move up. That's how I think most of the people in St. Charles County have done it. And I just feel sorry for those kids that are stuck paying rent because they can't find a house that they can afford at this early stage in their careers and their lives.
All right. Bill Eigel.
Well, Steve, I'm glad you keep recognizing the problem. I just wish that you would offer a solution to actually doing something. And more than that, hey, I got an idea. Instead of feeling sorry for young homeowners that can't afford a home, let's get rid of their personal property tax and take that off their bottom line. And by the way, you and I both served in the state Senate. You know and I both know that the legislative body can absolutely pass an appropriation that could be sent to the collector of either of those jurisdictions to pay off debts on behalf of a third party. That happens every day when your mortgage company sends a check for your personal or your regular property to the collector right now in St. Charles. So it can be doing. What's missing is visionary leadership that's not going to be sleeping all day long, and we're going to make sure that we're going to cut the tax burden. We don't have to feel sorry for them anymore.
Steve Ehlmann, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, well, I guess the judges will have to finally decide this. If you can do that and actually get the council to do what you're talking about, I think there's going to be a lot of opposition to it.
I have yet to meet a person that lives in this county that doesn't want to see the end of personal property tax. I'm not worried about the judges. I'm not worried about politicians and municipalities that don't care about the affordability issue. Let's start standing up for the taxpayer.
We get to do that.
Steve, you can have another 30 seconds.
Property tax is a big problem. Personal property tax is a big problem. The county is a small part of that problem. And what you're suggesting would bankrupt the county, and I don't have enough time to list all the things that the county would, all the services that we would no longer be able to provide if you did what you're talking about doing.
Jason Law?
Thank you. What was the question again? I mean, these career politicians are going at it, folks.
Do you want me to repeat it? Obviously, housing affordability is a big issue. What should the county do to help with help make housing affordable?
People make a lot of promises that they can't keep. And it's over and over in politics and over in politicians, how they test their message and get their message out, that they say they can do all those things, but they never do it. In the city of Lake St. Louis, I cut property tax by 46% by paying off debt early, becoming a debt-free city. We're one of the only debt-free cities in the entire region. When I left Lake St. Louis, we had the highest cash reserves, lowest tax rate, and highest credit rating in the city's history. And I'm proud of that, and we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to cut taxes. I'm not a politician. I'm a career policeman that was a part-time mayor in the city of Lake St. Louis. I worked a full-time job, and I'm proud of that. But what we'll do is we are going to attack property taxes. We're going to attack it. They've gone up over 300% in the last 20 years. People can't afford that. That's the affordability issue right now.
Dan Fox.
All right, this is kind of a follow-up question to that.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, I'm not trying to hog it all from you.
Okay.
Renters vote, and they pay taxes too. They pay property taxes even. As someone who currently happens to be someone who's a rental, who is a renter in St. Charles County, I'd like to know how each of you plan to address that desired growth balance without dismissing or offending voters who happen to be renters.
Bill, your chance to go first.
Yep, great question, and I'm thinking of this in a three-step process. The problem when you have too much high-density multifamily is that you run into density problems. You start to change the look and feel, and the reality is the tax collected per unit of multifamily is nowhere near what we're collecting on our single-family homes. So if you build too much multifamily, you're not only going to put a big strain on your infrastructure, you're going to shift the burden to those of us that have bought a single-family home. Now, I have a three-step process here. One, I want to put a moratorium on any more apartment complexes in unannexed, unincorporated county ground. That's step one. Step two, I want to develop a group of standards and guidelines for density requirements that the cities can follow so that we don't end up with apartment complexes dominating every street corner in our community. And finally, I want to enforce that with the municipalities by leveraging the road dollars and other infrastructure dollars that they need from the county in order to get our compliance. So we can have a good relationship with the cities, but the idea that there's nothing we can do, which is what we consistently hear from the incumbent, that's just not the case.
Jason Law, 1 minute.
You know, like I said before, I put the moratorium in place in 2021 to stop the growth of apartments. It's not because I hate renters. It's because our resources were being overrun. Fire departments were running more calls. Police officers were running more calls. The schools were filling up. We have to saturate those apartments into our community before we can move on. Apartments aren't the right thing right now. I agree that we need to stop that growth for the meantime. Taxes is the big issue. Cutting personal property tax, cutting property tax is the way to go. I've done it before. I'll do it again. Thank you.
Steve Ehlmann, 1 minute.
Yeah, here's what we can do. Here's what we can do. We want to stop the apartments. We can't order, the county can't order the cities what to do, but you all can. We have a charter. We have a charter form of government. There can be an initiative petition, or the council can put an issue before the voters asking them to limit the cities and how much apartments they allow. They can ban them all together, but it would take a vote of all of you before that could be enforced, not just on county government, but on all the cities in the county. And that's something I certainly could support.
He referenced me. Can I respond to that?
Yes, sir, 30 seconds.
You know, over the last 12 months, my team has worked on politicians in different cities. If you look in western St. Charles County, we helped the mayor of Dardenne Prairie get elected. And what did he do? He did a moratorium on apartments. It was one of his first bills passed. We also, in the city of Lake St. Louis, we helped that mayor go in, and I think he's going to lower density again to make it even harder for apartments to come in. And then if you look at the city of O'Fallon, we also helped them get some seats elected. And you're going to see in the next 12 months a new plan out of O'Fallon. It'll be voted upon. I don't know if it'll win, but you're going to see another moratorium on apartments. I'm a proven leader. I get it done. These guys are just politicians.
Steve Ehlmann, 30 seconds to respond to that.
Well, that is obviously the other way to do this, and that is to get people elected in those cities.
And you're the county executive. You could have been doing that for the last 20 years. You could have been going after these cities for 20 years, and now we're in danger in the next 20 years of having a crime-ridden community.
Steve Ehlmann, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah. Do you know how many apartments were put up in Lake St. Louis while you were mayor?
No proposals were passed. One was passed 4 months into my mayorship.
Okay.
After that time, not another proposal was passed after June of 2021. Okay. Not one more proposal.
Right.
And still there's not a proposal passed after I've left.
We got one proposal passed in 19 years. I challenge you to beat that.
Bill Eigel, we don't want you just to watch the debate. If you want to say something, feel free.
Well, on one hand, I agree with one of my opponents that, Steve, you keep saying that, well, we need the people to take a vote, we need the courts to weigh in, we need the cities to fix the problem. You're pointing the finger at everyone but yourself, and you've been in office longer than virtually anybody else in this county since the turn of the century. So I think that we should stop pointing at everybody but yourself. Secondly,
and what do you think I can do?
Excuse me. The reality is both of these guys are bad when it comes to apartment complexes. Lake St. Louis, since Mr. Law was a county councilman in 2013, doubled the number of apartment complexes they had. Over St. Charles County, we've seen the county executive preside over one of the largest explosions of apartment complexes while never engaging with the cities or doing anything to stop it in the history of this county. I'm the one that's going to put a stop to it because I'm willing to engage.
All right, Jason Law and Steve Ehlmann, you each have 30 seconds to respond. Jason, you go first.
Listen, I actually get things done. I went through my Board of Aldermen and we passed legislation that stopped apartments in its tracks. I worked with people to get that done. I worked with my staff to get taxes cut by 46%. I do what I say and I say what I do. I'm not a politician. I get things done. I'm a career policeman.
Steve Ehlmann, 30 seconds.
Yeah, just one thing. The senator was in the legislature for 8 years. The things that he's talking about could have been done. We saw it this year. They passed a bill that only applies to St. Charles County. We're going to have school board elections in November instead of April. Okay? All these problems that you think I should have dealt with, are you telling me that the state couldn't have dealt with them, that you couldn't have passed a bill like was recently passed?
Bill Eigel, 30 seconds to respond.
So now the apartment problem is my fault when I was in the state senate. Is that what I'm hearing? This is a continually, and listen, Steve, if you keep acknowledging the problem but just want to blame anybody else and don't have any solutions to fix it, why are you running for office again?
I think I already suggested a solution. Change the charter. If you want to do anything. If you wanted
to change the charter, you've had 20 years to submit that to the county council and submit it to the people.
All right, Dan Fox, next question.
Hyperscale data centers have been a topic across the entire country, and we've seen several proposals locally. Is St. Charles County the right place for one of these large data centers? Why or why not?
That would go first to Steve Ehlmann.
Yeah, what is the question again?
Hey, let's keep it down in the crowd, please.
Hyperscale data centers have been a topic across the entire country and locally here in St. Charles County with several proposals. Is St. Charles County the right place for one of these hyperscale data center developments? Why or why not?
You're talking about the data centers?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I wondered how long it would take us to get to that.
You've got 1 minute.
All right, the data center issue. Everybody, or some people want to ban it, okay? What bans don't accomplish much. It would take 4 votes in the council to ban it, and we could turn around 6 months from now and actually 4 people could get rid of the ban and approve one of these things. What we need instead is a moratorium that the county can do with its health department and establish a moratorium that would not only keep anything from happening in the unincorporated county, but also in the cities. And under the law, you can do it for 6 months. What I would propose is that we do a moratorium for 6 months and wait and see what happens on some of these other data centers in other places. it may all become a moot point. And I've talked to people in the city of St. Charles, and many of them tell me, they wish they had known what they know now when they first dealt with this.
All right, Bill Eigel.
Well, I guess I'm confused. The difference between a ban and a moratorium, I think you're saying the same thing. I'm opposed to these data centers, and the reason I'm opposed to them is not because I'm anti-technology. It's because right now we don't have a very good solution on how much infrastructure they're going to require, how much water they're going to use, how much electricity they're going to use. Right now, in the city of St. Charles, the water usage for what they were proposing was going to double their water usage. It was going to double their electricity requirements. And if we look at some of the recent deals that are signed on these data centers, like what happened over in Montgomery County, there is a great fleecing of the taxpayer in order to pay for that. I'm opposed to that because that's where the discussion is on these data centers. I'm a no on data centers. So if we're banning them through the charter by creating a new method of zoning for the county, where we're leaning on the cities through the health department, I am a no, and I want to be crystal clear about that.
All right. Jason Law.
I think we can all agree that St. Charles City kind of screwed up the data center thing with their backroom deals, and that's old school politics. We need transparency when we're going to build these things. Listen, I grew up in North St. Louis County. I'm a cancer survivor because of Coldwater Creek and the environmental disaster that brought about from the radiation. Data centers are a way of the future, but we cannot have them in St. Charles County until you can promise me that the environment's going to be pristine, that the water usage is going to be under control, that they're going to pay for their own energy costs, and we're not giving corporate handouts to billionaire companies. That's my stance on data centers.
Steve Ehlmann, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, during this moratorium, we of course could find out what we need to do to make sure these things you're talking about are met. Make sure it's environmentally sound. Make sure it's not going to cost consumers more money. But the big thing is, back in 2018, we actually gave the data centers a tax exemption from sales tax. And that's when you were in the Senate. I would wonder how you felt about that back then. Maybe the first thing we ought to do is get rid of that.
All right, Jason Law, you have 30 seconds to respond to that, but then Bill Eigel, you'll have 30 seconds to respond to Steve Ehlmann's question to you.
Data centers are a hot topic, and we just need to be responsible. We need to tell the public the truth. We need transparency across the board. We don't need what happened in St. Charles City and the backroom deals to go on. The public needs to know what we're doing at all times, and I'm a career policeman, not a politician. I cut taxes, cut crime, cut bureaucracy, and I'll tell you the truth on data centers moving forward.
All right. Bill Eigel, 30 seconds.
So I guess what I'm taking from this is that, once again, apparently data centers are now my fault while I was in the state Senate. I got to tell you, if this is as simple as having the health department put a moratorium on data centers, the health department works for the county executive. Steve, what have you been doing for the past 20 years? Why don't you could do that right now, and we don't even need to wait for the election to be over.
We are studying this.
Well, I'm glad that we had this conversation tonight to get that on the roll.
We are hoping that before somebody actually brings something to us, we'll have this
We've
figured
been talking about data centers for a year. Why just now are you doing it?
Because we started this when the city of St. Charles had to deal with this issue.
A year and a half ago?
Pardon me?
St. Charles, that conversation in St. Charles City has been going on for years. But just now, 60 days prior to a re-election, when this issue becomes hot, now you're going to take action?
I'm a little bit concerned. You're the one who wants to do away with property taxes. What about all the property taxes that these data centers pay? Now, the problem is they pay it to one person. What we should do is what we already do with generating plants, like the Sioux plant here in St. Charles County. That and all of the high wires and everything, they pay taxes on that, but they pay it into a big pot in Jefferson City, and then the money comes back on a per capita basis to the people in the county. If we did that, think about it. I mean, everybody uses that electrical grid, and everybody's going to benefit from these data centers wherever they are, and hopefully they won't be here.
Folks, we just said the quiet part
30 seconds,
loud.
Bill.
We just said the quiet part out loud. It's all about the money. What are we going to do if we can't get the money from these data centers? I'm not worried about the county government or these cities getting any more of your cash. We need to cut that tax burden. I'm not going to let a bunch of corporate raiders put in a bunch of data centers to take even more money out of your pocket. That's the difference between myself and the incumbent. Let's go, St. Charles.
All right, incumbent Steve Ehlmann, you have 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds to respond.
30 seconds to respond to that.
Incumbent. Yeah.
Once again, I mean, this is an issue that is very, very difficult. It's obviously very emotional, and you're certainly very emotional about it, and that's certainly you're right. But while everybody is emotional about this, is it really the best time to make a decision that really may be important, not only for the county, but for the region and for the state?
There's never a time to defend the taxpayer, which you can't do if you're sleeping.
There's never a time when you can't study something and look at what's happening other places and try to learn from that.
Jason Law, you have 30 seconds because you have 30 seconds.
Hey, this is how career politicians act, 24/7, 7 days a week. Bring in somebody that's not a politician. I say what I do and I do what I say. I cut taxes by 46% by paying off debt early, becoming a debt-free city. I cut bureaucracy, which private investment flourished through Lake St. Louis. And I cut crime by 45%, being the 10th safest city in the state of Missouri. I'm proud of my record, and I do what I say.
Mike Ferguson.
I want to follow up on the development question regarding other employers outside of data centers, the ones who employ lots of people and drive revenue. What is the county government's role in attracting those, and what should the county not do when it comes to looking for the right employers and economic development in the county?
We'll go back up the line. Jason Law first.
It's easy. If you cut personal property taxes, business will want to come there because it's cheaper to do their business. They'll hire more people. We'll be more successful as a community. You need to cut crime. We've seen it. I think we're starting to get complacent on it, politicians especially, where they think we don't need to invest in crime. Well, look at St. Louis City. Look at all the businesses flourishing. Look at all the top law firms leaving. Look at everything's leaving St. Louis City. We need to get together to cut crime, work together as a region to bring outside businesses back to our region, back to the whole region, because this area, St. Louis County, St. Charles County, Jefferson County, we're the engine of the entire state. We produce about 40% of the state's entire revenue. If we continue to fail, the entire state's going to fail. We need to get our act together and put in the right policies in place to bring in business.
Bill Eigel, 1 minute.
Well, I've been talking about property taxes and bringing them down for as long as I've been in politics. And by the way, you keep mentioning that, talking about my tenure in politics, you've been in office longer than I have, Jason.
I've been a part-time guy. I also had a full-time career. I think being a city council, getting paid $500 a month is a little different than being a state senator, Bill.
Believe it or not, the state senate is a part-time position as well. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm glad you're talking about property taxes, because while you were a city alderman and you were the mayor of Lake St. Louis, the property taxes, overall tax burden collection per citizen increased 30% from 2013 to 2024. Those are from the own annual reports that you put out as an alderman from 2013 to 2024. And I would like to know that I keep hearing this, I cut property taxes by 47%.
46.
You did, 46%. You did pay off debt a little bit early, which is fantastic, but you raised the sales taxes, you raised the use taxes, you spent more than that city has ever done before, and of course you had to have a moratorium on apartment complexes in 2024. There probably wasn't a square inch of Lake St. Louis that didn't already have an apartment complex.
Jason Law, you have 30 seconds to respond.
The moratorium was in 2021. I did cut taxes, but every other tax entity would not cut taxes. That's why the taxes went up.
That's just Lake St. Louis City. That's not fire department.
Please let Mr. Law answer the question.
That is Lake St. Louis City.
We
up by 30%. If that's these are coming from your own.
You have a complaint with the assessor's office. I can't help that the assessor raises places' property values.
No,
I cut the taxes.
I'm talking about
you don't cut taxes.
the amount
you just
of money.
say you're going to cut taxes.
I'm talking about the amount of money.
Bill, how many times have you said you're going to cut personal property tax? And do we all still go to the office and pay personal property tax? We do, because you're a career politician that lies to its people.
Wait a minute.
30 seconds
Yeah.
so we can have Steve
First of
Ehlmann
all,
answer the question.
here's the reality. You keep talking about you cut taxes. No, you didn't. Every person in Lake St. Louis right now is paying 30% more in their overall tax burden, just the city, than they were in 2013. You keep saying that, you're against apartment complex. You doubled the number of apartment complexes since 2013. That's the record. And if you want to spend your time making a commercial for your opponents by saying that's not the case, I'm going to let you do it. Go ahead.
Can I get a raise of hand on who's paying personal property tax in St. Charles County? How many people out there are paying personal? Every single person is. And he's been running on it for 10 years to cut it. Never happened.
All right, Steve Ehlmann, you have 1 minute.
I think the question was about economic development. Is that right, Mike? Yeah, I think it was about economic development. And the most important thing that our county government can do on economic development is build roads and make sure the state fulfills its obligation with regard to building roads here. The state, for many years, did not. They didn't have enough money. They couldn't get the money they needed, and the state made a decision that they were going to spend what money they had for roads. They were going to spend it on maintenance. Well, that's fine, as you know, for the 100 counties in the state that haven't grown in decades. But for places like St. Charles County, we needed money for new roads. You know where it came from? It came from county government. We spent $191 million of your county road board money to do MoDOT projects because MoDOT was not able to meet their obligation. And I'll let you decide who is responsible for that.
Mike Ferguson, you have a follow-up?
Well, let me be a little more specific. When it comes to the future growth of St. Charles County, are there any industries or sectors that you think the county should be most open to when it comes to that growth, when it comes to the jobs and the employers in the county?
Steve Ehlmann?
Yeah, I think manufacturing. I mean, our workforce development department here in the county is exceptional. For some reason, we have 125,000 more residents in the city of St. Louis, but their program down there has 7 times as much money as ours. I'm not quite sure why our federal people aren't sending the money where it's really needed, but we need to create manufacturing jobs, and we need to train the people to do those jobs. And I know our community college just opened up a vocational center, which I think is going to be tremendous, not only for St. Charles County, but surrounding counties. All of this is another big thing. We're going to get more money this year. You know why? Down at East West Gateway. Because the Biden administration was concerned about DEI, about equity, and the Trump administration is concerned about economic development, and the economic development is here, and I can tell you we're going to get more money this year.
Bill Eigel, 1 minute.
Well, I'll be honest, of all the things that our government doesn't need, it's more money. This is not a money problem. You know, we talk about infrastructure. I'm going to get to your question, Mike. We talk about infrastructure, and we got all that listing of all the money that we've apparently spent on new roads, and yet all that money spent, and every afternoon at 4 p.m. I get stuck in a massive traffic jam in Highway K going north and south. Every afternoon I get stuck in a traffic jam on Highway 64 at the bend around Wentzville. So it's not a money problem, it's a vision problem. So what I think one of the biggest money pits the county has gotten itself involved in right now is actually the family arena. We're losing tens of millions of dollars every single year in the family arena in capital improvement upgrades, in operating losses. We've got to get out of thinking the county can do things like run entertainment centers, run horse barns, and restore us. When we do that, we're going to be able to take the savings from that and lower your property taxes. That's going to be the economic driver when we do that, that's going to lead to growth for the future years of St. Charles County.
Jason Law, 1 minute.
I do disagree with a couple of the folks up here. I do think we need to bring in more business. What we do is we lower taxes to bring in that business, and thrive with small business, support small business. And as more businesses come, more tax revenue comes in, which allows us to lower the tax burden on every other single person in here. On the western St. Charles part with the traffic, it's ridiculous. I live in Lake St. Louis. The folks over here, I get calls all the time, every single morning because of the traffic. What we need to do there is sell the horse barn. Go to sellthehorsebarn.com. That's a money pit as well, along with the family arena. We've spent hundreds of millions, over $100 million, when that could have been invested in infrastructure in western St. Charles County to alleviate a lot of this problem.
All right, Susie Moore.
Many cities in St. Charles County are listed among the safest in Missouri. What's the county's role in keeping it that way? It's for all three.
Bill Eigel,
what's the county's role in what?
What is the county's role in keeping it that way?
I didn't hear the first part of the question.
So many of the cities in St. Charles County are listed as the safest in Missouri. So what is the county's role in keeping St. Charles County safe?
So right now, we're actually doing pretty good as far as crime in St. Charles County. In fact, of all the folks that I'm talking to, the top issues continue to be property taxes. They continue to be making sure we're growing with these and not putting up all these apartment complexes and doing something about keeping these data centers out. But when it comes to law enforcement, listen, I was the guy that in the state Senate passed the law officers' Bill of Rights to protect our officers from frivolous lawsuits. In fact, we just found out on Friday that one of our former officers has brought a lawsuit against the county executive alleging misconduct and violations of that state law. So I think it begins with treating our law enforcement with the respect we deserve. And if we do that and continue and invest in them, we're going to continue to have a safe community.
All right, Steve Ehlmann, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, just going back to the other question for just a minute. I think this family arena, I think the NEC, those are all quality of life things.
It's the private sector's job.
Like our parks. Our parks don't make money, but it's an important quality of life. And we could talk a lot about what's been accomplished in our parks, and I'm very proud of it. But, okay, are you going to cut the pet adoption center as well and put the little puppies out on the street? I mean, is that a waste of money? That's one of the things that we do. It's a quality of life thing. In fact, we are going to build a second pet adoption center, and this is an example of how we in the past have worked with the cities. About 12 years ago, we went to the cities and said, hey, everybody doesn't have to do this. Let's let the county do it. And we agreed to do that. Right. And because our pet adoption center needs more room, we're going to build a second one.
All right, time's up. Jason Law, 1 minute.
So I guess the reason we...
Jason Law, 1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just so everybody knows, when it comes to crime, I'm a 28-year lieutenant colonel with the largest police agency, and I have the responsibility of protecting 1 million people indirectly or directly. I will keep us safe. I won't be complacent. Every single first responders group, from the firemen to dispatchers to law enforcement, has backed me and supported me. Attorney General, prior Attorney General Andrew Bailey endorsed me. They all know that I can keep you safe, and that's my promise, that you'll be able to walk down the street with your puppy that's not in his puppy place and enjoy your families.
All right. Dan Fox.
Jamie, I was referred to. I'd like to make a quick response.
How were you referred to again?
He was asking me if I was going to get rid of the puppies.
Okay, just do it 30 seconds, but if you mention them again,
So first of all, no, we're not gonna put the puppies out, Mr. Ehlmann. But I'll tell you what, that the animal control centers take up a fraction of that $600 million budget. What's killing that budget are all the other money pits you've gotten into: the family arena, the National Equestrian Center, the St. Charles City Hall project. These are costing us hundreds of millions of dollars that if you hadn't gotten us into these money pits, we'd be cutting the tax burden already.
All right, Steve Ehlmann, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah. And once again, let me go back to the original thing, which I think was crime, and what's the county's role. We have a jail, a correction center, and we provide that jail not just for the unincorporated areas, but for the cities as well. We have we've used ARPA money to expand that jail. We have, in the process, People may know this, but 2/3 of the people in our jail either have an addiction problem or a mental health problem. We are creating a 100-bed mental health facility in the jail so we can have experts come in and start treating these people so that when they are released, they're on the road already.
All right, Mr. Ehlmann, time's
recovery.
Up. Bill Eigel, 30 seconds to respond to his response.
Well, again, at risk of going in circles, the reality is the county has $606 million coming out of its budget. The value of every personal property tax bill for all taxing jurisdictions is only $120 million. So these predictions of apocalypse, if we cut your tax burden, just aren't based in any kind of realistic reality. What we need is leadership and someone that's going to do what they say they're going to do. I'm going to get rid of personal property tax if you would trust me with this position.
All right. Dan Fox.
St. Louis County will have a new county executive come November as well. How will you collaborate across the river with your contemporary?
And we'll go back up the line on this. Jason Law, you start.
I think what we can all do, especially as a region, is work together to cut crime for the entire region. I'll gladly work with any county executive or anybody in the region. I think when you look at Franklin County, when you look at Jefferson County, and when you look at Lincoln County, those are very important parts as well. We need to focus in on that regionalism in terms of crime, and that will help us bring business back to this region when we get that under control and people can feel safe going downtown, going to the ball games, hockey games. But that's an important step in bringing people back, and you have to work as a team.
All right, Bill Eigel, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things I think that's very interesting is that I suspect that by the end of this year, St. Louis County is going to have a new county executive. Jefferson County is going to have a new county executive. We just got a new mayor in the city of St. Louis last year. I think Franklin County might have a new county executive, and I think St. Charles County will have a new county executive. So we have a clean slate here. And how can we influence the region? Leadership by example, because when we get rid of personal property tax on our residents, I'll be the first to tell you, we just wait until the other counties are following our lead.
All right. Steve Ehlmann, 1 minute.
Yeah, the other counties are following our lead already. Our police chiefs got together and created a task force, and they went out and solved this problem with all the stolen cars. They continue to work together with St. Louis County and other jurisdictions to exchange information. The colonel probably knows more about this than I do. But I've said many times, if our politicians work together as well as our law enforcement people did, we'd be in a much better situation. But having said that, the St. Charles, St. Louis, Jefferson, and Franklin County executives went to Jeff City, got $50 million to do a police training facility, which is going to be built here in the next year. We got the state to pay for it, and it's going to benefit not just our county, the entire region, and most of the state. That is something I think is a good example of how we can work together.
All right, Mike Ferguson.
I have a question from the audience. Thank you for sending these in. That relates to public safety as well. It's a very simple question. It says, do you have plans to help with the homeless situation in St. Charles County in particular?
Steve Ehlmann, we'll go back down the line here for you. 1 minute.
This is an issue that has been around for as long as I've been in office. It doesn't seem to go away. I will tell you this, that I've worked with our community council, and they are very concerned about the fact that in the city of St. Louis, they get from the federal government $13,000 per homeless person. You know what we get out here in St. Charles, Lincoln, and Warren? We get $1,400. They get 9 times more per. And I've talked to our congressional delegation about this problem, and I don't know why it exists, but we're going to be working on it at East West Gateway, and I'm going to try to find out and try to at least equalize that funding. I think the problem is they got too many chiefs and not enough Indians in the city.
All right, Bill Eigel, 1 minute.
So homelessness is something that we dealt with at the state, and it was clear from the research we did when I was in the state Senate that the bills that we were filing and passing is that almost without exception, folks that are on the street today have some sort of drug addiction or some sort of mental health problem that's not getting addressed. And so making sure we connect those individuals with the resources that are already paid for and already available, whether it's through the county, whether it's the state, whether it's municipalities, this is not a money problem. I don't think that we can just afford to sit back and say, well, I don't know what's going on with this, but I'm going to find out. I think that we've got to get engaged with these citizens and engage with these cities because we've already got the resources, we've already got the program set up. This ought to be something that's actually very easy to solve. So my economic package, we've already covered that. But when we start rising every boat, economically speaking, and we get people that need the help that are on the streets, I think we're going to make a big difference.
All right, Jason Law, 1 minute.
You know, I agree with that, and I deal with that on a daily basis. I'm a Lieutenant Colonel of the Division of Special Operations. Part of my assignment is the CIT Division. It's the Crisis Intervention Unit. I expanded that by over 100% over the last year and a half, writing multi-million-dollar federal grants to help with people in mental distress. Most of those are homeless folks that are out on the street. And I even brought in St. Charles County, O'Fallon, and St. Peters, and I funded a police officer so they could start to work in St. Charles County to address the homeless problem and work together with St. Louis County to address the homeless problem. And that's what we've done, and I'll continue to do that, and I'll continue to make sure that the homeless people are taken care of.
All right. Susie Moore.
What is a bill that passed the legislature this session that you agree with, and how does it affect St. Charles County? That's for all three.
And we will start with Bill in the middle.
The bill that will have the most impact on St. Charles County is actually a bill that was sponsored by Adam Schnelting and Richard West, I believe, who's here tonight, that will move our school board elections to November here in St. Charles County. That's going to start being the case here in St. Charles in 2028, if I'm not mistaken. And you know, I think it's a recognition that I wouldn't be surprised if the state starts looking at examples to where counties are given additional opportunities to be successful just in that manner. So I've got a great relationship with our legislative delegation. I think we can continue and expand on ideas like that. Maybe some of these will have an idea of what to do, continue bringing down the property tax burden. But that by far, I think, is going to be the one that's felt far most. And the other thing I would give a shout out to, and this was actually passed last year, was Amendment 3. Amendment 3 is going to take Missouri from being one of the most pro-choice states in the country back to getting outlawing, I think, between 98 and 90%, 99% of the abortions, and every life we save is worth it. So I'm a yes on 3.
All right, Jason Law, you have 1 minute.
You know, some of the largest problems in the entire region, including St. Charles County, when you're dealing with crime, is juveniles. They get arrested for serious crimes and let out the next day. Well, I helped liaison to get a bill passed along with Chief Giuseppe there. I think he's out in the crowd from the city of Lake St. Louis. And we got legislation passed this year that will make sure juveniles are held accountable and that their parents will be held accountable for the actions that they do.
All right, Steve Ehlmann, 1 minute.
Yeah, the bill changing the elections is very significant. It was amended after I suggested at one of the council meetings that the most important thing isn't the election of the school board members in November, it's that we always vote on tax increases in November. That's been the problem. The problem has been these tax increases that the cities and counties, school districts pass are done in April. And if people aren't there to vote no, oftentimes they pass. So I think that's the most important thing. Senator, I checked your payment, and you pay a lot of property taxes. So I thank you for that, and I congratulate you. For having a nice home that it gets taxed a lot. But you know, I say again, 1.5% of the taxes you pay actually go to that county government, which you say has such a bloated budget.
All right, okay. Senator Eigel, you have 30 seconds to respond.
So I'm excited to lower property taxes for everybody. I mean, this is fantastic. And I'm glad that we've sent those checks to you, Steve, but I don't want to send any more. And so I'll tell you, the county has a $600 million budget. $600 million. We have waste all over. I don't know if you know this, but over the next 5 years, you're projected to spend $2 million on desk chairs. That's enough money to buy every county employee a new desk chair every 4 weeks. I'm pretty sure we can save a lot of money in that $600 million budget.
Steve Ehlmann, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I hope nobody really believes that. And I want to thank our professional journalists over here, because as you can see, politicians tend to exaggerate, and they tend to say things that aren't true. And sometimes you're the only people that can let everybody know what the real truth is. And I hope that people will pay attention to what the professional journalists say, instead of getting on their phone and seeing what the
all right,
what
Bill,
they can read.
Bill Eigel, you have 30 seconds to respond to his response.
So just to be clear, Mr. Ehlmann, I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. You're saying that the county has not programmed over $1 million in desk chairs over the next 5 years. Are you sure you want to say that, and will you willing to say that?
Why do you say desk chairs? Are you talking about all the furniture for all the departments?
I'm talking about line items for desk chairs. I just want to hear you say it. If you're basically saying that I'm lying, I just want to hear that you say it.
I'm saying it's an oversimplification and it's an exaggeration.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got that clarification.
All right, Dan Fox.
Tell us about the last time you helped a single individual with a specific problem.
That would be first to Steve Ehlmann.
The last time we helped a specific individual was probably, what's the best example? Or the latest? I mean, I have people come in all the time. We had a gentleman come in, called me the other day on the phone, and didn't understand the situation with the senior citizen tax freeze, and I explained it to him as best as I could, and offered to put him in contact with people down in our collector's office who knew more. But I mean, those are the kind of situations that come every day. A lot of time it's just a matter of communicating with people and helping them understand the way all this works.
Bill Eigel, 1 minute.
I think the last person I helped was my daughter. She's, for those of you who don't know, my daughter Lisa, and I mentioned in the bio that she's in the Air Force. She's actually down at Maxwell Air Force Base right now going through boot camp for the Air Force. And she just got there, thank you, she just got there a week and a half ago, and she's struggling. Now, unbelievably to me, the Air Force lets you keep your cell phone during boot camp. And I know that there's some other veterans here that are going to make fun of me for that for a long time to come. But she texted me late at night after all the lights had gone out, struggling with that. And so, helping people doesn't have to be in this grand sense in our role as public servants or public officials, but encouraging my daughter is probably the best help that I can think that I've helped anybody do maybe in the past month. And if it helps her get to the end of what right now is the most difficult challenge that she's faced in her life, I'm happy with that.
All right. Jason Law, you have 1 minute.
Like I said before, because of Coldwater Creek, I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm proud that I was able to fight and beat it. And what comes with that sometimes is people, friends, they get cancer and they go through these treatments, and sometimes they just want somebody to sit down and talk to, because the treatments can be tough and difficult at times. I remember chemo, it was no fun. And a good friend of mine is struggling. And he's a good friend. I think his kids are in the seats tonight, so helping him out.
All right. Mike Ferguson.
I'm taking this question from somebody in our radio audience, and then I'm going to expand on what this person emailed me. It has to do with the surveillance technology regarding public safety and also emergency services. Obviously, we've heard a lot about drones as first responders. What role or what limits should that technology have in the county when it comes to first responders and law enforcement? And then I'll also go with the question that was asked me here. Things like flock cameras or whatever brand it's going to end up being that surveils and reads license plates and tracks that sort of data. Do you believe that those are constitutional? And if so or if not, what kind of limits should be on that technology that's ever changing?
And we'll go up the line. Jason Law, 1 minute.
I've been in law enforcement for nearly 30 years, and I deal with these all the time and these concerns. Anytime there's a new technology, it's scary and people want to fight it. And then when we show that we use it properly amongst our citizens, they become more trust with it. For example, we had an individual not too long ago that improperly used a technology. They were fired and charged with a crime. So right now, I'm not against this technology. I think it needs to be monitored and it needs to be secured. But the flock cameras in particular, when they're at parks, they make sure that child molesters stay out of the parks. They make sure that murderers stay off the street. They track stolen cars, and what stolen cars do is they're used in more crimes later on. So when we track those stolen cars, we can get to them quickly before they do the violent crimes that they're about to commit. They're a good technology. We just need to make sure that we use them properly and that we're transparent with the public and we keep the public notified of all the things that we're doing.
Bill Eigel, 1 minute.
So I don't support these flock cameras, and I've been really worried about kind of the expansion of the surveillance state that we've seen in America, not just in recent years, but for almost 20 years now. It seems like every government abuse starts with someone in government saying, well, we're doing this for safety. I've got one of these cameras actually right down my street, 50 yards from my house. There hasn't been a crime committed on the street that I've been fortunate enough to live in the 10 years I've been there, and yet now we have a camera that's tracking every one of my movements. When I was in the state Senate, I opposed the prescription drug monitoring program for the same reasons. I don't think the government should track your prescriptions. I don't think the government ought to be tracking your license plate just because you have to be driving down the street. And listen, there's a lot of good things that we can do to support our law enforcement officers. We're doing a good job in St. Charles County with a lot of our municipalities. We don't have to sacrifice our personal liberties to government in order to solve every issue, and that's not what I stand for.
Steve Ehlmann, 1 minute.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had this discussion just today, and I can tell you that we have 29 flock cameras that the county has and controls. 22 of them are at the entrances to our many, many parks. Okay, and one of the things these cameras do is they do license plate readings. And in the computer is the name of every person who's a sex offender, who under the law is not allowed in a county park. And if they enter in a car that belongs to them, we immediately are notified, and we can make sure that that sex offender who's not legally allowed to be in our park can be in our park. Now, we got these drones are a big thing now too. And people don't understand the big thing for us with drones is that we have these drones, we can get to an emergency quicker. We can, if there's an accident, we can get a drone there in a matter of minutes. It may take a lot longer to get a car there. So the big thing about drone is they get people where they need to be quicker.
All right, thank you. Susie Moore.
All right, we've got another audience question here. What would you do to ensure the people you appoint to serve on various boards adhere to the will of the people? Example, library boards, DDRB.
Steve Ehlmann, you start, please.
If they adhere to what?
The will of the people.
Oh, the will of the people? Well, you make the appointments and the will of the people. You elect me or someone else. You elect council people, and yes, I make an appointment, but it has to be approved by the 7 people on the council, and that's how the system works. It works that way on the federal level, works on the state level, works on the local level, and even works in our cities. So the thing about it is you gotta make sure you elect people who you trust to appoint people to these positions who will do the will of the people. And I think I have a good track record on that, and I think the council does a good job of examining these people before they approve them.
All right, Bill Eigel, 1 minute.
Well, I'll tell you, when we quarantined here in St. Charles County, a bunch of kids to the tune of 250,000 school hours when those kids were healthy during COVID, it doesn't seem like a lot of your health picks worked out very well. Here's what I would ask folks. Here's what I'm going to ask folks, and it's the same question you should ask anybody whether they're running for office or serving in office. What do they think the proper role of government is? For me, it's real simple, to protect your rights. It's not to give you stuff, it's not to provide you with gifts or comfort. It's to protect your rights. Personal property rights, your right to life, your right to own property, and your right to keep government out of it. That's what I'm going to defend, and everybody that's going to be part of an Eigel administration is going to agree with that assessment.
Steve Ehlmann, since he referenced your COVID policy, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, I would love to. Again, going back to COVID, you know, that's one of the things I want to see East-West Gateway do. I want to see a re-examination of what everybody did during COVID, because we got this Ebola thing that may be coming. And I'm afraid if it gets here, some people will do the same thing they did before. And quite frankly, it didn't work very well in other places. Worked a lot better here. The problem with the schools is that the state rules and regulations and state statutes required that, and there was nothing the county executive could do to overrule that. And I don't think there was a single bill passed changing those rules and regulations.
Bill Eigel, you have 30 seconds to respond to his response.
The reality is the state health directives came down through the county health directives, who wrote a memorandum of recommendation for the school districts that then used that as justification to put a bunch of kids who were healthy the entire time at home and away from their colleagues and away from their teachers. That could have been changed and stopped by one person, the county executive. No, you failed those kids, and now you're talking about Ebola coming down the pipeline. All I can say is, yikes. I'm going to protect your rights, and the COVID craziness is never going to happen in St. Charles County again.
Steve Ehlmann, 30 seconds.
Senator, did you ever serve on JCAR? Did you ever serve on JCAR? When I was in the Senate and people did stuff like that we didn't appreciate or didn't think was legal, we called them before our body and examined them. So you're telling me that I should have been responsible for overruling a state official that came from Jeff City to St. Charles County? That was your job.
Bill Eigel, you have 30 seconds.
Well, once again, our county executive has nothing to do with it. It's not his fault, and there's nothing he could have done. I can't figure out why that's the same answer you give to every question, Steve. Why are you running for re-election?
Why are you most people that run for local office, they get in local office and they get very frustrated because, as you know, cities and counties have only those abilities and powers that the legislature has given them. And a lot of people I know get so frustrated with that, they say, shoot, this is silly. I'm going to run for state rep or senator. I'm going to go to Jeff City where they actually change these things. You could have changed all this if you had worked with people in Jefferson City instead of simply killing bills. You could have changed all this up there, and I don't understand, if you couldn't change it there, what makes you think you can change it as county executive? You're going to need not just you're going to need a lot of people to work with you, and the question here is, do you have the background? Can you point to examples where you actually work with people to get something done?
All right, quickly, Bill, because we have to get to Jason's answer to the question, just very quickly.
Yes, yep, absolutely. I tell you what, the one thing I do have, Steve, that you don't, is a vision for where St. Charles County can go. And I'll tell you what else. I actually did accomplish a lot down in the state Senate. I passed House Bill 2540, which was the largest single-year tax cut in state history. I passed Senate Bill 26, the Officers' Bill of Rights, that was my sponsorship. But you know what? You're right. Steve's right. You don't know about me of when I was saying yes to good legislation. You knew about me when I was saying no to bad things. That's what I was known for. And I'm willing to say no to bad things here in the county.
Jason Law, you have 1 minute to answer Susie's question.
I don't even know what the question was, but you can see that's 50 years, a half a century of career politicians going back and forth. We need new leadership. We need fresh leadership. I'm Jason Law, and I'll bring that to you.
All right, Dan Fox, you're going to have the last question. We got to stick exactly with the time here, please.
What's one policy that you have that benefits a voter born after the year 2000?
And we'll start with Jason Law.
Could you repeat that?
What's a policy proposal you have that benefits a voter born after the year 2000?
Born after the year 2000, a proposal to help those folks. I'm telling you right now, it's cutting taxes, making life affordable for those that are younger. They're having struggles because of affordability, and the only thing government can do is cut taxes to make it more affordable.
All right, Bill Eigel.
I think everybody knows I'm going to say make St. Charles County the first county in the state of Missouri to not levy a personal property tax anywhere. We can do that, and if we do that, the person born after 2000 is going to actually be able to own their car without renting it from government every December 1st. That's an idea that the state will take, the rest of the counties in the state will take advantage of, and they will follow our lead.
Steve Ehlmann.
Any policy that keeps our families healthy, happy, and together. And that involves a lot of things. That involves getting these congested areas improved so that people can get home from work quicker, to have dinner with their families and spend more time with them. It involves having SRO police officers in our schools to make sure that their kids are safe. And we have done that not only in the high schools, but in the elementary schools in the unincorporated parts of the county. It means all the other little things, including a pet adoption center where they can go get a nice pet.
All right, so we are at the end of the question part of the debate, so we're going to now move to the 2-minute closing statements. There's going to be done in the reverse order of the opening statements. So Steve Ehlmann, you are first. 2 minutes.
Well, I think again, taxes are certainly a big problem, but county government is a small part of that problem. And I would be glad to see the senator run for school board, because those are the people that are raising his property taxes, or run for ambulance board or whatever. And those are the offices we need to fill with good conservatives who will then do what the good conservatives in county government have done, and that is cut for years and eventually eliminate the county taxes, the county property taxes that we collect. On transportation, again, I'm looking forward. Somebody mentioned the new leadership in the region. I think we have an opportunity here as we go forward. It was very frustrating with a Biden White House doing rules and executive orders that made equity more important than economic development. We have got to go ahead, and the Trump administration has reversed that. They're going to look at economic development. They're going to look at where can we spend transportation dollars that will actually improve the economy of the region. I am looking forward to going ahead and working with the people at East-West Gateway to go ahead and do that. I want to finish our parks. I want to meet our goal of having the same number of acres per person as St. Louis County. That's a goal I set 20 years ago, and we're very close to it. And again, I want the ability to work with other people. And again, That's what it takes. You can talk about what ought to be done. You can criticize me for not doing something. But the fact is, the things we did accomplish were accomplished only because I could work with people.
All right,
I could work with the mayors, and I could work with the county council.
All right. Jason Law, you are next. 2 minutes.
I just wanted to thank everybody, the moderators, people asking the questions, everybody out here for coming and being a part of government and making smart, seeing what smart choices could be made for you in the future. I'm here to serve. I've been a career service person. It's in my family, it's in my bones. You know, my dad's a retired police officer, my mother's a retired nurse, my brother's a retired police officer, my sister worked in a police department. I'm proud of our family and how we serve the community. I'm a loyal individual, I'm trustworthy, and I'm a career policeman, not a politician. I'm not that type of guy. I'm not polished. I'm a person, just like everybody out in here. I'm not trying to do anything but keep you safe, cut taxes, and cut bureaucracy. I did it before, and I'll do it again. Thank you very much.
Bill Eigel.
Thank you, Jamie. Want to thank everybody for being here tonight. For those that are listening online or via the radio, thank you for tuning into this discussion. As I said, St. Charles County is at a crossroads, and thank you to the moderators, and thank you to my opponents. The reality is, I know, guys, it's not easy to be up here when the things go maybe that you don't expect. You got to stay cool under fire. So thank you guys for being up here and sharing this stage with me. As I said, St. Charles is at a crossroads here, and I can't help but point out the reality is I do feel like our executive has given us nothing but blame for others for the things that are wrong in our county, and really no ideas about how to solve the issues that are facing every St. Charles County resident. I've got a plan to get rid of personal property tax because we're going to go into that county budget, we're going to cut all the waste out of it, and I'm going to deliver some real tax relief to the citizens of this county. We're going to protect ourselves from these corporate raiders that are trying to put these bad fleecing deals onto the taxpayer with these data centers, and we're going to come up with a combined county vision of what density requirements looks like and prioritize infrastructure over multifamily as we move forward. That's the St. Charles County that I think folks are looking for, because when I talk to St. Charles County residents every single day, that's what they're telling me. Let's go, St. Charles. Thanks for having me here tonight.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, Mike Ferguson and Susie Moore and Dan Fox, and thank you all for joining us for this live broadcast. Don't forget, immediately after the debate, each candidate is going to be given a 15-minute individual press conference in the Black Box Theater, which is directly across from this venue, and that's going to be in order of appearance at the start of the debate. And with that, I thank you for joining us, and thank you to all of our hosts, the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University, our partners, the St. Charles County Republican Central Committee, Rivers NewsMagazine, the Lewis and Clark Pachyderm Club, and of course, News Talk St. Louis. Remember to vote on August 4th. Your vote makes a huge difference. Thank you, and a good night from beautiful Lindenwood University, and thank you all for coming out. You've been a great, enthusiastic audience. You're making this republic sing. Thank you so much for joining us here for this live broadcast on News Talk STL.